Alright guys, so we're up on the top of Crystal's RV here, her fifth wheel, and we're going to go ahead and remove the old vent here. This one does not have a fan, and we're going to replace it with a fantastic fan vent. So we'll have to start by getting up all this old putty here, this old sealant, get that all scraped up, expose the screws on the old vent, and get that old one pulled out of there. Okay, so I just took a putty knife to it here, and as you can see, all the screws under here are now being exposed. So I can at least get to the screws, get all the screws unscrewed, get the putty knife under there, and get this vent pried up off the roof. And then I'll be able to go back and kind of scrape the excess sealant that's left there. Get the fantastic fan up here, see if it's going to set in there all right, and work on getting that installed. Okay, now I got all these screws out here. There are a lot of screws on this one, so it took a little bit of work getting all those out. Now we're going to try to pry the whole vent up itself, so we'll see how that goes. Alright guys, so we ripped out the old fan here and scraped off most of the sealant that we could. I've got the fantastic fan just kind of sitting in there to make sure it's going to fit all right. It's looking good. So now I'll go ahead and pull it out and get some sealant down, put the fan back in, screw it in, and then apply more sealant around that. What's up? Getting this fixed up here. See? This stuff spread out here.
Is it hard?
A little bit. You gotta squeeze it pretty hard.
Yeah. It's hard.
Oh. Okay, you gotta watch out. Some of this might drip down there. Can you do me a favor and pull that towel out? Spread that towel out a little bit better there. Just pull it back that way. Nope, the other way. So it's all laid out. Yeah, like that. Good job. Oops. Now lay it right here. That towel, if you can, lay that towel out right here. So if some of this stuff drips, it'll drip on the towel instead of the bed. The drift? There you go. Alright guys, so we got all the screws in here. As you tighten down the screws, it kind of, you know, squirts out some of the sealant that I had underneath. So that's a good sign. It's completely flush and tight all the way around. So now we're gonna go in and use the remainder of the sealant just to cover up the edges and all of the screw heads. You should be good to go. Almost done. Too much work, huh? Alright guys, so we got the Fantastic fan installed. It's all screwed in, and there's my professional sealing job there. Basically used almost the whole tube of sealant. They don't store well, so I just try to use it all up in one shot. Should be good to go. We'll let that set up for the rest of the day, and then we'll see about possibly getting this cover installed also. But we're gonna start with getting the van all set up, wired up inside, come back up, see if we can get this top back on. There it is, guys. We got an installed Fantastic fan. Breeze is already blowing. Super nice.
Hey guys, it's Crystal. So it's been a little over a week since I've had the Fantastic fan installed, and believe it or not, I've actually used it often. I get very hot sometimes, even when it's a little bit cold outside. So if I'll have the heater on, it's because my boys need it, not because I need it necessarily. So having the Fantastic fan above my bed, like directly above my bed, is amazing. I think it has 3 or 4 different levels of wind or whatever, and I typically don't go past 2. I mean, that's more than enough for me, and it puts out tons and tons of air. A couple tips for having a Fantastic fan is if you boondock a lot, it can drain your battery if you run it all night, because it takes a good amount of the 12 volt. So just be careful with that, and in not leaving it running all night if you're boondocking. So, and that was a tip that I picked up from another viewer. Also, this morning I went to go turn on the Fantastic fan and it wouldn't turn on, and I was like almost gonna call Brian and ask him, hey, I think it's broken or something. But lo and behold, you have to actually open the vent before you turn on the Fantastic Fan. So there is, I guess, a safety in there so that you don't have the fan on and the vent closed. So I learned that this morning, but it works great. I'm so happy with the Fantastic Fan. I should have gotten one a long time ago, and I recommend them to anyone, especially if you're boondocking. But even if you're not boondocking, it's just a great thing to have for extra air, because it really does pull in a lot of air and it makes you cool really fast, especially if you have one above your bed like I do. Next would be for me to get one for my bathroom. The installation I didn't do, as you can see. Brian, Adventure Van Man, did it for me. He was really nice, and I kind of asked him, kind of sort of didn't ask him. I had it sitting under my table since beginning of December, and it had just been sitting there, and I casually was just like, hey, do you know how to put one of these in? He actually has one in his van that he installed himself, and if you guys have seen his van, you know he converted that all himself. So I think he actually had to like cut out a hole in the top of his van to install that. And his is pretty cool. His is above his bed as well. But yeah, he did it for me, and I definitely would have done that, but it makes me incredibly nervous to get on top of the roof of my RV. If it was something that was more towards the back of the RV, I might feel a little bit safer, but I'm slightly paranoid that I might fall through the RV roof, because it's not like an actual house roof. It's very frail, I guess, and so I feel like I would just, that it would not be able to take my weight or something. So I just didn't do it. But it had been sitting there, and he was super cool about it and installed it properly. And since he had already installed one, he didn't need to really look at the instructions, and he did all the wiring for me. And I think it took I don't know, an hour or two to install it. He got up and down from the roof quite frequently to go back and forth to my bedroom, to the top of the RV, and he did it very well with me having my two little boys run around. That's another thing. I'm not sure if I was comfortable doing that, if I would have been comfortable having my two boys down here while I was on the roof, since I don't really have anyone to watch them. But highly recommend the Fantastic Fan. There are different kinds of Fantastic Fans that some come with remotes and are pretty fancy smanchy, and timers and all that. I just have the basic one, and that does me just fine. I am super happy with it, and incredibly thankful to Brian for putting that up there for me, and just doing it and not asking for anything in return. Actually, Brian was great the entire time, and just dealing with my kids in general, and since he doesn't have kids, he did a really good job of dealing with mine. But yes, definitely recommend it. Look into it if you don't have one. It produces a lot of air and keeps you fairly cool. So thanks guys, bye.